Hi and welcome to the NBA show. My name is Morten Jensen and today is Monday, which means it's a Monday news dump. We'll be talking about a possible NBA midseason tournament. We'll be talking about potential NBA expansion and we'll take a look at the NBA playoffs. So stay tuned. So first and foremost, let's talk about expansion chatter. This has been a subject ever since the Seattle Supersonics became the Oklahoma City Thunder back in 2008. So this is something that is near and dear to all Seattle fans in the NBA atmosphere, because obviously one of the destinations that the NBA could consider expanding into is Seattle. If memory serves, they kept all their records, so that should be maintained in the Seattle area. I don't think it would be an entirely new franchise. I think it would have the Seattle Supersonics moniker, logo, history, and everything that follows. It would only make sense. Now, of course, there's also this little element that there is really no timetable to this. This has been one of those situations that has been fluid for at least a couple of years. And there's also not talk about just one expansion team. There's also chatter about a team popping up in Las Vegas. That makes a lot of sense. The league has been there for All-Star games before. It's a place where they hold their summer league every single year. Of course, years where the pandemic isn't active naturally. But those places just make sense from a financial perspective, from a fan's perspective. And now you might be thinking, well, hold up. Those teams are going to be Western Conference teams. Like right now, it's split down the middle. You know, you have 15 teams in the East and 15 teams on the West. So what do you do if you add 2 teams to the West? Well, it's pretty simple. You move one of the existing West teams to the East. Presumably, that would be the Memphis Grizzlies just because of geographical location. So where does this chatter come from? Let's take a look. According to Michael Grange from Sportsnet, it's widely believed the NBA will expand for the first time since rounding out to 30 teams in 2004, partly to recoup losses from the pandemic. Returning to Seattle as part of the process is almost a given, with Las Vegas as the other likely city, now that the arena issues that led to the Supersonics leaving for Oklahoma City in 2008 have been resolved. That makes a lot of sense because this is a great way for the NBA to get a financial injection. Obviously, these teams would have to cost something even to build, to construct. You would have to find owners, definitely billionaires who can insert a lot of money into the NBA overall economy. And of course, having 2 new teams also means revenue created from those teams. Yes, it is a major process to incorporate new franchise. We saw that in 2004 with the Charlotte Bobcats, obviously now the Charlotte Hornets. It takes a long while to get these teams off the ground and turn them into a long-term team for the NBA. When you look at just the implementation, the first couple of years always seem kind of odd. Fans aren't really that engaged. They're kind of figuring out what kind of place this team has. So this would be a major undertaking, obviously. But I will say this, the NBA right now is primed for an expansion. When the league expanded last time in 2004 with the Bobcats, there was a lot of chatter that you really couldn't sustain that model at that point in time. The league really was not that good. It was arguably one of the worst eras of professional basketball in North America at that point, simply due to the fact that the talent level wasn't that great. It was a limited pool of significant talent, and the more expansion you brought into it, the more teams you had to spread that talent around to the best of your abilities, and there simply wasn't a whole lot. Now in 2021, the story is definitely different. We are in the golden age of NBA basketball. We are seeing execution, player talent at an all-time level. We have never seen this many young stars be that effective at the same time before. We are seeing a tremendous talent injection virtually every single year. Teams are identifying end of the bench guys and can really turn them into starters or full-time rotation players. It is absolutely the perfect time right now for the NBA to expand with 2 teams because the talent pool available, both from a regional perspective, from a national perspective, from an international perspective, that could hold water. It really could. We are talking about the game having so much interest right now, so much fanhood, so many players compared to, 15, 16, 17 years ago. So right now, it would behoove the NBA to actually see if they could get this train moving and really buy into this whole expansion thing, because it can maintain itself now, given just how much talent is also in Europe, which means more NBA opportunity for Europeans who really should be in the NBA right now. So yeah, I would definitely argue in favor of expansion. And yeah, you could maybe argue that over the first couple of years, you might see a slightly worse products, because it is still 2 full teams that will need 15 roster spots each. So the NBA would get expanded with 30 active players. And yeah, sometimes that takes just a little while, but it wouldn't be anything compared to 2004 with the Bobcats. I mean, we had talent that really shouldn't have never been talent in the NBA playing in the league at that point. That won't be the case this time around. Now, of course, just to reiterate, there is no set timetable on this, and that's why I'm pressing that button, basically saying the NBA should get on this, because I do think this would behoove them to get this train moving as soon as possible, because who knows what happens in 10, 15 years. I mean, look, I would love to believe that we are seeing the start of an evolution of great players coming in every single year, which we are right now. But will it last? We don't know. We could run into one of those situations where 2 or 3 draft classes aren't really that great. Maybe a substantial amount of NBA talent, which nears the old side, drops off significantly. And then you're in sort of a similar situation as you were in 2004, 2005. I don't personally believe so, but you never know. So it might be a good idea. Just get it done, like as soon as possible. It's not just expansion that could change the NBA dramatically. We're also looking at a situation where NBA Commissioner Adam Silver is really trying to get teams and players involved in the entire process of installing a mid-season tournament, very reminiscent to what you know from European soccer or football as I know it, where you have cups, for example. So we're looking at a situation where Silver wants to implement something entirely new, not known to most American sports in the same sense. And the reaction from players has been not necessarily great. Jamal Murray from the Denver Nuggets is not on board, and this is where I want to push back just a little bit. So one thing is, of course, if players don't feel like they want to do this and the player union is agreeable to that and basically says, no, we don't see that this could add as anything to the NBA, fine. But I don't think it's wise to close the book on the idea right now. Silver has barely been able to really present his entire vision to the players union, and I think it would behoove every party to sit down during the summer, have a long meeting or several meetings where they just lay out the entire plan. Saying no right off the bat and really not knowing the intricacies of such a plan is just not smart. At the very least, you have to just figure out, is there a way we could do this? Is there a way this makes sense? If you collectively reach the decision, you know what? No, there isn't. This is just not a viable idea. Fine. But then at the very least, you've sat down, you've had a discussion, and you've gone through multiple scenarios where you can make the best educated choice on the future of such an idea. Of course, any mid-season tournament would have great interest, especially in Europe, because we know that from soccer, football, and that would be something that we would be looking at and take great interest across the pond. But the NBA also has to ask itself, will Americans adapt to this idea? Will they enjoy it? Will they really get the premise of what it's for? Is it really pointless? Because a lot of Americans who I speak to really call it that, exactly that, really, pointless. And it's because the NBA championship is still the number one thing. And I get that. I don't think we should at any point try to pivot off of that and say, well, a cup championship and the regular championship have equal value, because then you can definitely argue what's really going on here. But I do think it would be interesting to maybe just implement it for a year or two, or see if we can sort of gain some traction. Maybe there's a single elimination system going on that just really heightens intensity, atmosphere, fan involvement. I don't know. Honestly, this is on the side of the NBA. They have the idea, they have the vision. So I look forward just to hearing more about what their idea is before I can go fully on board. But I do find it intriguing, I gotta admit. I do think there is certain logic in basically saying we need to do something new, we need to keep everything fresh. Because yes, if you keep the same system around forever and ever and ever, it does have a tendency to grow a little bit stale. So if the NBA is believing that we could be looking at that scenario, I am all in for trying to do something else to keep everything fresh and alive. If that's the mid-season tournament, great. If it's not and it's something else entirely, also great. At the very least, I just want all sides to sit down and have a conversation about what this could possibly mean. Staying with the theme of NBA success, let's go to the NBA playoffs, because right now the league has to be extremely excited about the first slate of games that's been played. We have seen everything from great individual performances to great team defense, late game executions, tight games, drama. We've almost seen a fight. I mean, this has been one of the most fun opening games for the first round series in the playoffs that I can remember in years. I think the NBA and the Players Union are really clapping their hands of the success right now. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to the product of the NBA right now. It is truly great. We have never seen collectively the league be this good from a talent perspective, skills perspective, and it is showing in games. I know that people are kind of tuning out a little bit once in a while due to, well, a severity of reasons, really. But you know what? You really shouldn't. There's this false perception going on that teams are playing the exact same way because they're all shooting threes, and that's a load of crap. I'm sorry, but that's a load of crap. If we're looking at Milwaukee, Miami, we're seeing great defensive teams really built their entire identity on switching, on ball movement, on unselfish play. Then you have a team like Portland going up against Denver. Both teams are very offensively inclined. It's about passing, it's about cutting, it's about shooting, it's about getting the best possible shot. I think just the overall mindset that the NBA is the same is inherently wrong. And it's time we start to recognize the teams that have these very individual styles, identities, whatever you want to call them, are really exercising those. We are seeing teams play in a much different variety from one-to-one team. And it boggles my mind that there are still people out there going, oh, it's the same product. It's not. It's truly not. And the playoffs this year, especially here in round one, going through all game ones, proved that. It really did. We are seeing a great slate of different identities, and I'm enjoying it to the full extent. So is the NBA, so is the Players Union. I have to imagine, I hope so are you.